How about now? Does this work for you guys? If I try turning it off now and again, I really don't want to do that. Okay, okay. I realized what it was. I was talking a whole lot in the test audio function right when I added the new sound mode. Anyway, um, yes, JNAP. I have plenty of time because he's actually the same thing on turn one every time. Um, sure looks to me as I look at it that MHT did all of these standard things that CCT does on turn one. So, um, he started. Let's see here. Looks like completely standard start. He did start Slave 1 in hand, which is kind of half and half. Sometimes they do it, sometimes not. Um, Otherwise, Boba Fett and Gun and Despair, all the standard stuff. Let's see here. Uh, Brad did play Might of the Republic to pull Bail Organa for the Tanev. And then, let's see, we had Strike Planning pulling Mon Mothma and General Kraken. And then a Twi'lek Advisor. So he got the passenger deck, which I'm sure you all saw. I'm just kind of reviewing it so that we are all on the same page. And then Boba Fett moved over, looks like with the Bounty Hunter interrupt. He's all yours, Bounty Hunter V. So yeah, CCT is set up on turn one. CCT is flipped, ready to make things happen. Brad, meanwhile, pulls Mos Eisley with his objective, I believe. That's not really what you want. Although, I suppose if he's not trying to flip turn one, that's probably fine. He pulls Chandrilla with Mon Mothma and the farm, with the farm effect. I must be allowed to speak. Likely to be a really important piece to the matchup. Um, since a lot of action is, or since there's a potential for a lot of action to happen on Tatooine, um, Brad having access to use pile pulls to attack Matt with is pretty powerful. Um, my understanding is that in general, uh, scum decks like this matchup, although that's probably more court than CCT. Um, and that's largely because court gets to hold the system much more easily. Well, I appreciate you guys for coming and watching the stream. Sorry, it took me a second there because I said Dan set up this much slicker version of the streaming setup than I was using the last two nights, but I didn't know where the audio capture was, so I had to figure that out, and I had to figure it out on the fly. Uh, so Brad moves over to Chandrilla. Now there's just Senator Mon Mothma on the Tanev, I believe. That should be Senator Mon Mothma. Yeah. Sarah and the droids. But no pilot and no battle destiny. So there's some possibility that MHT could attack here. He did pull Hujix with his escape pod combo, so it's not going to like cause any overflow or anything. But the Tantive is potentially vulnerable here. And the droids only relocate from the Tatooine system. So MHT does pay to drain for 2, the audience chamber. Brad loses Leia Organa and Lando from reserve. Those are both characters he doesn't really want to do. Yeah, not overflowing with all that forfeit. Yeah, exactly. But taking these characters out here would not be good for Brad. Particularly because then the stolen data tapes just fly back over to the Dune Sea, and he kind of has to start all over. Now, Brad draining though, or rather Matt draining there on turn one sort of would seem to suggest that he doesn't have a lot that he's wanting to deploy this turn. It seems likely he just wants to set up the audience chamber. So he pulls the Scum and Villainy, pulls Dero, which likely means he's pulling IG-88. There it is. Then I expect we'll see. I expect we'll see Boba Fett's gun move over to IG-88, and then the prisoners swap during the move phase. So CCT has a pretty durable standard setup. They hope to do basically this most games. Um, yeah, would need a nice hand to attack on turn one. Yeah, um, which he didn't seem to have. Although now, of course, you know, this was kind of the one turn where Brad could potentially safely leave the Tantive open like this and not be too worried about it. From here on out, of course, with IG-88 being able to do the force pile pulls, um, you got to know Matt's going to be looking for an avenue to attack. I do wonder if Brad actually has another Leia persona in his deck. I've seen General Leia pretty commonly out of these decks, but he's running Leia Organa V, which is also a Leia that makes a lot of sense for this deck. Diplo caring a lot about ability less than 3. Also, Bail Organa adding to drains with that Leia. So having both Leias is not unreasonable. But losing 2 of the characters that get you your use pile pulls is really not where you want to be. Matt saves 5 force, wanting to keep his hand size to 12, so that when he pulls a card during Brad's turn, he'll still be at 12 when he pulls a card with IG-88. Brad's just going straight to deploy. He deploys Alderaan, which he drew, and then misses pulling the Cantina, giving up a verify of the 13 cards left. Both of them activating quite a lot. Activation not really a limiting factor when Diplo's involved. So we got Gold Leader and Gold 1. That'll let him flip Diplo this turn if he can put somebody to the ground. Back to Tank. There you go. Back to Tank's a nice little card for a deck like Diplo that has a lot of cheap characters that can draw on their own, and kind of like getting into one-on-one battles is just fantastic for you with your Destiny boost and all. So he's going to deliver, but he's not going to flip. That seems pretty reasonable. I only have 7 force left, so it's not a lot. Makes sense to just deliver now, get that out of the way, get access to the most cards for your reserve deck pull with the stolen data tapes, and then draw some more cards and refill your hand and get ready to flip a different way. And MHC is now taking his opportunity to use his IG-88 pull. Waited until he had a better idea of what he might want, given that Brad did mostly nothing on his turn. Just set up, deploy locations and stuff. And the back to tank and whatnot. So there's kind of 2 main lists of Diplo that I see, with some variation within them, of course, but it's pretty split between leaning heavily on General Calrissian and the Falcon to deliver directly from Tatooine, and then this version with Senator Mon Mothma and Chandrilla in between. A lot of skilled Diplo pilots whose opinions I trust go either way on them. Some like one, some like the other. I would say certainly for this matchup, the Chandrilla option seems like the best one. Partly because one of the limitations of the Falcon build is that not running another system means that a dark side space deck can prevent you from flipping by just holding the Tatooine system and not giving you another system to run to, because you do have to control a system in order to flip. Whereas this way, with multiple systems, it's possible for them to hold both, but they have to do it really early, which is possible but not super reliable. So MHC's draining again. We're losing a Tatooine celebration. They're tracking us from reserve. So now we see what MHT is going to do. He has a full hand. He has 17 force to work with. There's Stinger. Non-V. And then Matt uses IG88 to pull a card, still making sure to stay at that 12 card limit. Feels like MHT heavy favor right now based on this start. Yeah, Brad's start seemed a little slower than you would normally like. Okay, so we got an Antilles maneuver. That's likely going to pull Captain Ramus Antilles to pilot Tanev. Or that at least is what I assume he would hope to be pulling, but could be a lot of different things. Feels like MHT heavy favorite also based on the decks. Yeah, I admit I'm not that well versed in this particular matchup, but Scum decks in general seemed to be pretty solid against Diplo. Although Diplo does have the ability to fight back from a lot of tough positions. So yeah, there's Ramus Antilles, and I believe MHT is the higher seed if I remember this correctly. Then we got Jabba Space Cruiser. It's going to deploy an alien leader, no longer for free. Sad times. Let's see. MHT. MHT is the number 3 seed for this event. Sorry, I'm a little bit off center with my camera here. Yeah, gotta shift over. That's what's going on. MHT deciding very carefully what alien leader he's going to pick. He goes with Mighty Jabba. This is game 1 of the match between them, correct? Yes, that is correct. This is game 1. I think we would have seen Guts come out by now if it was in the deck too. That would have been a key card. Yes and no.